You're watching ADT. Look, a squirrel!
From Peekskill, New York, you're watching ADTV. I'm Crazy Irish Eddie, and tonight we have three exceptional guests. We have Jono Oliver in the house tonight. We have Paul Borghese, and we have William DeMeo. And now, our host, Rock and Roll Rosaiba.
Hey. Thank you for coming and joining us again for another great show. Let me get this on this mic.
Get it on.
How's
Get
it going?
on. It's going good. It's going good.
Good.
Except for the weather and traffic today.
I know. Was that crazy? That rain? I was stuck in the traffic on the West Side Highway for like an hour.
An hour?
An hour.
Oh.
Yeah, just in one spot.
There's a thing called mass transit.
I've never actually been on a subway.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Anyway, did you see those stocks?
No, I ran out of money, so I really...
Well, Apple, it plummeted down to $92 from $650 a share yesterday. It, like, ruined my day. Forget about the traffic. I cried. I called Fidelity, and I'm like, what just happened? Well, for people who don't know about stocks, like me, when stocks split, it doesn't mean I lost all my money, but they want more revenue coming in, so they split, and they sell them for super cheap. So everybody, the tip of the day is go buy Apple. $92 a share.
Well, never mind that fruit. We have a great lineup tonight.
I know, I'm excited. I can't wait.
And we have...
I know who we have.
Who do we have?
We have Jono.
Jono's here tonight.
Let's introduce him.
Jono Oliver, come on down! Woo!
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks
So
for
good to
having
have
me.
you. Yes, thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Of course.
And we have a little mic for
Yes, thank you.
Jono.
Attach this. You did it to Lloyd yourself, probably.
Oh, I did.
This
So,
is our first show with mics, actually.
is it? We're just projecting our voices all those other
All
times?
the other time.
So the Italian doesn't have to yell and scream?
No, not
All
today.
right, all
Look,
right.
I'm done already, see?
Oh,
Right there.
wow. See that?
I thought,
All right.
expert, you know.
Can you hear him?
You hear me?
All
There
right.
we
Can
go.
you hear me
Ready to
now?
talk.
So happy you're here.
Thanks for having me, yeah.
We've been trying to organize this for a while.
For a while.
For a
yeah.
while. So it's finally happened. And we got stuck in traffic for a little while, too, today on the Deegan. So, but we made it through.
Once again, mass transit?
No, don't do it. It would have took him 2.5 hours to get here if he had to take
Yeah, it takes a while to get to
2.5 hours.
lovely Peekskill.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
so that's okay.
Never
It all
mind
worked
mass
out.
transit.
So, Jono, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
You're a busy man these days.
I am, yeah. I did a film. I've been in production for a long time, and I did my first feature film. Shot it 2 years ago, and it came out about 4 months ago. And it's called
Fantastic.
Home. And
I know, we've
That's
been
what we're
watching The
talking about.
Buzz.
Home!
I know,
yeah.
what a great name when you hear Home. What made you think of the name Home?
Well, it's about, the story's about a man played by Ben Gakanabe. He used to be in The Wire, now he's in 24. He's one
That's
of Jack
awesome.
Bauer's guys, and he plays a man who's trying to move out of his group home into his own apartment. So the home kind of has a couple different meanings.
Right.
The home he's living in, the home he's trying to get. He's also trying to reconnect with his son, who he hasn't seen for some time. So it's ultimately, it's about a man who's dealing with these issues inside of him in the form of mental illness, which you don't see a lot in film, but it's also about family and fathers and sons and connecting, and it's about hope. And so the movie's done really well.
That's
So
How
you wrote and directed.
Wrote, directed, produced, yeah.
And
Wow.
how'd you come up with the story? What inspired you? Was it something you gone through, somebody you know, or just...
No, well, I mean, it's a common thing. It's not talked
Yeah,
about
but
a lot.
you know, that's what I was going to say. Mental illness, a lot of people, they stay away from it. You know,
Yeah.
it's the subject, or it has like a stigma, so nobody really wants to come out and talk about it.
Right, yeah, no, there's a real stigma attached to the disease. But I came up with the idea. My parents were both social workers, so I think from a little kid, my father worked in a clinic in Bushwick, Brooklyn. My mom was a school social worker. So I think even growing up, I was kind of always aware that there were people who were going through things who might
Right.
need help. And so the movie though it was really about this kind of family story first and foremost, and then when I decided it was going to go into that world of mental illness, it was kind of an easy jump. And you know, living in New York, I live in Brooklyn,
Right.
and you know, unlike you, I do take mass transit all the time.
See?
So you know, there's hardly a time you don't go into the subway where you don't see someone who's kind of really going through
can
whatever, you know, peeing on themselves, or they're talking to themselves, or you just know they're kind of out of it. And I always look at those people and I go, I wonder, you know, where'd that happen? When did that happen? What were they like when they were 10 years old, 15? When did they kind of fall through the cracks?
Right.
And how are they now a 40-year-old person who's kind of so out of it and dropped out of the system or whatever? So I always kind of thought of that. So that's kind of what this movie helps address as well. It's just kind of issues about, you know, recovery.
It's pretty
and
deep. It's
you know,
deep stuff.
but ultimately, it's you know, it's entertaining, and you know, I was just saying earlier, we've been honored with a lot. We came out in festivals. We were in close to 30 festivals, maybe a little more over the past year, and we've
30?
won. Yeah, and we've won like 14 awards at them. Some best picture,
man,
nice.
man.
And but it's still you know, we have Benga's in it, Joe Morton's in it, Danny Hock, Tawny Cypress, a lot of familiar faces. I had a great cast who kind of came out for nothing, literally. You know, we
Wow,
raised money
gotta
on
love
Kickstarter,
that.
and we did it for nothing, just because people believed in the story and believed in, you know, what the message we were trying to tell, and the entertainment that the movie gives.
Sure.
And so we got a lot of awards. We've just won a Prism Award. I was in LA like a month and a half ago.
That's
Which was a
awesome.
real honor. It's given by this group that acknowledges films and television, it's movies, TV, talk shows who deal with substance abuse and mental illness. And last year, Flight and Silver Linings Playbook won for those two. And this year, we won in the place of Silver Linings, you know, same category. So we've-
Congratulations. That's good company. That
yeah,
movie
that's
is
been
fantastic.
good.
Yeah.
And NAACP Image Award for directing, along with 12
Wow.
Years a Slave and The Butler and
Wow.
Mandela. So but we're still trying to have people see the movie, because I think people are kind of scared, as much as there's a stigma about the issue that the movie deals with. It's been, you know, people, let's put it this way, so many people have seen the movie and they go, wow, you know, if I'd known what it was about, I would have seen it sooner. Like,
Right.
really about, in that it's more about hope and family, and it's fun, and there's
Right.
light moments, and it's not just kind of this, like, hit you over the head downer.
Right.
And can you share a little bit, without giving the movie away, but a little bit about the character with mental illness, and maybe what type it has, or maybe some of the challenges he has, and the characters surrounding him, and how they deal with
Well,
the
just
whole...
a transition from
Well-
going into a group, from a group home, or
Yeah,
per se,
he's in-
to going back home. It's like
Right. Well, it's interesting. The short answer is I can't, because part of what the movie was about, like when you meet Benga's character, and his name is Jack in the movie, I was very deliberate in not saying what illness he has. Like,
Right.
you don't hear in the entire film, and he lives in this group home, and you meet, you know, a dozen other characters. And part of what I wanted to do in showing this world is getting to know these people based on their behavior and their actions, and
Versus a
not
title.
versus saying, oh, he has schizophrenia, and then you judge him. And I think that's the problem with the illness, is
that is brilliant.
and it developed after, you know, working through the script, and it's kind of like, plus, to be honest with you, I'm not, you know, I know a lot about psychology and psychiatry just
Right.
from doing research, but I'm not that person, and so I didn't quite feel comfortable saying, well, this guy has this and that. That being said, I had a great technical advisor, this woman named Doreen Gallagher, who is a psychiatric nurse who I met years ago doing some other project, and we were very specific with what people have. So the actors all knew their backstory, even though it doesn't come into the movie. You know, they knew, this woman was diagnosed with depression when she was 18, she was a victim of abuse, whatever it is.
Right.
They had that, but it never really comes out in the film, because you get to know people for what they are, which is how we all are. It's not,
Exactly.
you know, part of the problem with stigma is that you hear, this guy has schizophrenia, this guy has bipolar, and you assume they're one way.
Well,
And-
I was going to say, how often, how common, like, you know, you see somebody, if they're hot and cold, automatically they're bipolar.
Right.
We get labels all the time.
Oh yeah, it's and
I
it's
have
hard
4
to.
or 5 myself.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, you should have, but we won't go there because that's a whole 4 other shows. But no, it's true, because even if it's, you know, an addiction, you know, whatever, you can overcome it, but people still remember that part
Sure.
of you. They don't remember, like we were talking. They don't. remember you, like you said, when you were 10, or who you were before the tragedy or the trauma that changes your life. Because they just remember, people just remember the bad for whatever reason.
Right, and once you get that label, what happens? That becomes the deterrent for applying for a job. If your own family will be like, well, I don't know if I want him to baby or she to babysit kids because
Sure.
they have this title, they have this
Right.
label. And the challenges for people who get labeled, with mental illness, it's
Yeah, I mean, and there are many. I mean, look, there are people who need, long-term care,
Sure.
but there are also people who are, in walking down the street right next or
Right.
in this room. You know what I mean? It's
Well-
it's such a 1 out of 4. The rough numbers. 1 out of 4 Americans will deal with some sort of mental illness in their lifetime. And then if you take
Right.
the number of people who are caregivers or family or friends. So it's kind of everybody knows somebody or will know somebody. I mean, that's just the
Right.
numbers.
Right.
But it isn't spoken about. So hopefully this movie and other groups, and we've been working a lot with NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, who has a real strong anti-stigma campaign, and other groups have been really helpful in getting word out about our movie, and we've tried to reciprocate and talk about them, like even in our DVD that you can now get on Amazon and iTunes. We have like a PSA from NAMI and just trying to do
Right.
something good, so it's not just here's a movie that'll entertain you, but also trying to get the word out. And
Right. Well, I think everybody should see this movie. I'm
I'm
not
gonna
going to
see
say
it.
anything because we can't give away the ending. But whatever this gentleman goes through, I'm sure it's life-changing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I've always been attracted as a writer. I've always liked small stories. Like there are movies out there where the world's about to blow up, or there's a killer on the loose and is about to murder everybody. I mean, we know the big stories, or
Right.
spaceships, or whatever it is. But I've always been attracted more to the small stories, not necessarily kind of your typical independent film stories, but I like. The main story in this movie is a guy's trying to get an apartment. I mean, that's his conflict.
That's awesome.
And it's a tough sell when you're trying to raise money for it, because people who have money for films go,
Right.
well, where's the shooting and where's the explosions and where's
Yeah,
the
the
this
shock
and that, and
value.
the sex and all this. But that's always kind of been what I want to watch, and that was ultimately my, that was my bar. Was I don't want to say it was set very low, but it was like I just wanted to do a film that I was happy with, that I would like to watch
And
over
you
and
had
over.
some
hearing
to-
that.
And as it worked
better
out,
beyond
It
all
should
that.
be.
but as it worked out, it's kind of gotten a real kind of momentum going, and hopefully, by you guys having me on, and your
Yeah.
viewers, and
No, everybody
Home
should
the Film,
watch
yeah, and
Home.
homethefilm.com is the website where you can get more information and also order it. But
What
even
was
if
that
you don't,
what was that website?
homethefilm.com.
Homethefilm.com.
Yeah, and it's
check it out.
yeah, there's a lot of people who worked hard on it, and so it's nice trying to
No.
get it out there.
So let me ask you this: 2 years later, from start to finish, and with all the success and festivals and awards and all the recognition, what's next for the future for Home? Are you going to take it further? Is there
There's
anything?
Well, there's been a couple people talking about possibly trying to make a series out of it, which is it's exciting to me. But I also I'm kind of ready to move on to a completely different story. But
Right.
I'm going to kind of work on that over the
Something
summer.
we can consider.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it all comes out of people really responding to the story in a way that I kind of didn't even imagine. I mean, like I said, it was really just I wanted to do a movie that was solid. I wanted to do a movie that didn't suck. I mean, honestly, that was like
Put-
that was my first.
Can't
That was
put
my
it any
first
better.
film as writer director, and I wanted it to be something that people didn't walk out of and say that was terrible. Like
Right.
that, where they didn't spend their money in theater, and because we did have a run in New York and Los Angeles, we didn't spend their money and go. That was
Yeah.
that was kind of my. Maybe it was a self, defense mechanism, but that was my criteria.
Right.
And
Well,
since
worth
we
it.
did a lot better than that, I feel like it's worth trying to, take it farther, because I think that these stories really struck a chord with a lot of people.
Right. Well, it's, compared to what's out there, I think bringing that mainstream will help people to go get help, or, not feel like there's something wrong with them, because, like you said, everybody had something at some point in their
Yeah.
life, so they don't have to feel like it's that they're alone, because I think that's what happens. They isolate themselves, or and they're afraid of the stigma, so people don't go out and get help.
And we can all identify, like as you said, we all may know somebody, and just seeing what they go through and how we can help or relate.
Or at least just be aware. It's
Be
like
aware.
when
And
you
it'd
make
be entertaining watching it. Sorry,
exactly.
I just interrupted.
No, it's fine. That's why they call it ADTV, right? Yeah, I got it.
You got your ADD
Jump in
up?
whenever you want.
Yeah,
The thermometer's all the way up now?
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. But anyway,
Anyway,
We're still talking about home.
we're still talking about
Talking
home.
about home.
yes.
So, do we have a clip for
Yeah, can we get a clip on there?
home? And
Should I,
check this
should I
out?
introduce it? Because I
Go
will
ahead.
be
Yes,
honest,
tell
I
us
know
a
what
little
the clip
background.
is. There's two scenes kind of put together. One is Danny Hock, who's a great, incredible. Actually, he does a series of one-man shows, and if people haven't seen his work, you got to look him up.
Right.
H-O-C-H is how you spell his
H.O.C.
last
Hock.
name.
Okay.
He plays Benga's, the character Jack. He plays his best friend, who we think is out on his own, doing well. And then later on, we see that he has kind of a more complicated past. And then it cuts into a scene where Benga goes to meet his father for guidance and or help. And his father's played by Joe Morton, and I was just like incredibly lucky to get him. And
Wow.
if people don't know the name, you'll recognize him, I think, when you see the clip. He's now in Scandal
Wow.
on
Fantastic,
ABC,
yeah.
doing a great job. He just won. Yeah, he's
Yeah, that's a
been,
great show,
he's
too,
doing a great
Scandal,
job on
yeah.
that. So, anyway, that's the clip.
Terrific. We got
guess-
that clip?
Right. Now it's all making sense.
I just need to do it once.
Until next month.
Just once.
And you sure there's no other way?
Son, I think you've always been fine with that. Asking for things. What I don't understand is this sudden need to leave.
You've never been there.
Well, I know that they take care of you. I mean, you live there with others like you, and there's a staff that cooks your food and helps you with your laundry and brushes your teeth. I mean, whatever you need, right?
I brush my own teeth.
I know. You come here after all this time.
Because you told me never to come back
Yet,
4 years ago.
here you are. What do you want, Jack?
That was incredible.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Everybody should go see that movie. Well, go get that movie. Home. You can get it where again?
It's on Amazon. It's on iTunes. It's at Walmart. We've done well in Walmart.
Oh, it's at
Walmart.
Walmart.
Yeah.
Wow.
So whether you're electronic, you get it online, or you can get it DVD mailed to your house. And
That's very cool.
yeah, I appreciate it. It's a good
Awesome.
film.
All right, let's give a hand for Jono Oliver.
Awesome having you
Thank
here,
you for
John.
Thanks a lot.
Are you staying with us?
I will. I'm gonna
All
stay.
right.
So who do we have next here? Another
A friend of mine,
exciting,
yeah.
exciting guest.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce him?
Well, my AD's kicking up, so.
Paul Borghese. We have
Paul Borghese,
with
come on
us.
down. Woo!
Hello, everybody.
Great having you on the show,
Good. Hi,
Paul.
Rose. Oh, get a kiss. How you
Hi,
doing?
Hey, man, how are you?
Good to meet you.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're familiar with these mics because I sure am.
Sure, it might take a second, but here goes.
Is that what that is?
Huh?
There.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay, so we're good.
We're
So-
good. Rock and roll.
I think we're good.
Yeah,
So-
I think we're good.
So we got
Good, but upside down.
Oh, no, you
No,
got
we're
it
good.
right.
We're good. Okay.
technical
wait for
difficulties.
it.
Please stand by. So while you're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Fiddling with my mic.
So we have Paul Borghese,
Yes.
producer, director, actor, am I correct?
Yes, all the above.
All the hands in deep.
Yeah.
So you're here tonight with us. Share a little bit of what's going on. What's in the current events for you? What are you working on? And
Well, I recently was co-producer and narrator of a documentary called Beyond Wiseguys, Italian Americans in the Movies.
Wiseguys.
And Rose was at the screening
At the
that was
screening, that was awesome.
at the Westchester Italian Cultural Center in Tuckahoe, New York, at the Generoso Pope Building.
What a building.
And we had a screening, we had a big crowd, and we did a Q&A that you covered,
Yep.
and have some footage of. And it's about, not that I'm too caught up in it, but it was feature film, and John Turturro was executive producer on it, and it's about Beyond Wiseguys in that Italian Americans aren't just, although we're known for playing, you know, wise guys and known in real life for being involved in mob and this and that, or there's much, much more to our involvement in our history in film.
And tempers.
Yeah. And tempers. Yeah, we all have tempers.
I thought I had a great time at that screening, and I thought the documentary was awesome. I
Well,
really
thank
did.
you. I'm glad you liked it.
I'm surprised I didn't see it. I keep saying that. Why didn't I see it on PBS? Right? It was on PBS.
Yeah, well, it had a limited release on PBS, and it's one of those documentaries, you know, notoriously don't make money and notoriously don't get wide distribution unless there's something, you know, really big like Michael Moore's doing or something. So it got out there enough so, and then we just all moved on. But the great thing about it was that a lot of well-known Italian Americans in the arts got involved in it and were interviewed, and we were able to go on their sets and hear them talk about the subject matter, like, you know, Martin Scorsese, Isabella Rossellini, Marissa Tomei, Stanley Tucci,
awesome.
Paul Sorvino. I could go on and on. So all the, you know, top people,
Top actors were.
you know, of the Italian American, you know, culture, spoke a lot about films they've done that were both, you know, mob related and not mob related, and what their thoughts were on the stereotyping. And I even brought Spike Lee in, who's a friend of mine, because when I brought up to the other producers, hey, how about Spike Lee? You know, like, Spike Lee, and I'm like, yeah, what are you kidding? They go, well, why Spike Lee? I said, well, so many of his films have Italian American, you know, influence
Right. Sure.
and characters, and he's done. Some of us aren't that crazy about what he's done with some of our characters, but he's also done some really good things with some of our characters, and he's been very real, and he, you know, quite a bit of.
Yeah, and he's in the
his
film
films.
too. He's in the documentary also.
That's what I meant.
Yep.
He's in the documentary talking about, you know, some of his films, and one of the really interesting things that Spike said, which I thought was really compelling, was that when Danny Aiello, who played the pizzeria owner in Do the Right Thing,
Do the Right Thing. I
was
remember that movie.
a great film that probably a lot of you remember. Danny really didn't want you to use the, I'll say the N-word, because for, you know, on television, he didn't want to use the N-word, which was in the script, and he wanted him to call, you know, the actor who was blasting the radio, the boombox on the counter.
Right.
And, you know, he just says, I really don't want to do that. Danny wanted to be this nice Italian-American neighborhood owner of a pizzeria type thing, but Spike wanted him to be the guy, you know, that needed the racial conflict for the movie to work. And then so he went and told the African-American actor to call Danny I could say this, I think, a fat guinea bastard. That's not too bad, right? And so he didn't expect it, so while they were rolling, he called Danny that, and all of a sudden in the documentary you cut to Danny going, you, and I won't say the rest of it, ba ba ba, and he does this, then he just goes off and he rants at, you know, this guy, like, you know, so he did that to urge him, but Danny didn't really want to.
Right.
You know, but,
well, everything for the sake of the film too. You know, he wanted to get a real.
We had an idea of his own
Idea,
character.
right.
If he wanted his character to be, and Spike had another idea of what he wanted his character to be.
Right.
So Spike had to kind of mold him into, you know, and also, you know, manipulate him into being that character. Which, you know, as a director, I totally get, because sometimes I'll tell actors to say things or do something in a scene that the other actor doesn't expect.
Right.
Because I almost can predict what the reaction is going to be if they're good, improvisers.
Right. Right. Well, no, I had. I loved the interview with Marissa Tomei when she was on.
Yeah.
That was just great, and she did her famous "My clock's ticking," which I love that monologue. You can't use that monologue because nobody does it like her. It's hard to compete, but My Cousin Vinny, that was a great movie too. And you were awesome in the beginning with Vinny Vella. It was really cool how you guys just brought it into, and just you took that documentary from the beginning, from into the 30s, into the present, like Goodfellas, Godfather, all that. It was just amazing to see the history, even though, you know, they say there's a stigma about, you know, Italian Americans playing wise guys, but there's a lot of great success that came with that. You know, it has like a, you know, it's like a two-edged sword. You know, you have those great parts, but
It is a double-edged sword, because on one hand, I mean, I don't know, you know, you say you don't want to be pigeonholed or you don't want to be typecast, but, you know, as actors, as long as we're working, you know, we want to be working. So it's like, if you want to typecast me as the wise guy all the time, sure, or the cop all the time, I'll do it. You know, would I like to play a doctor and a lawyer? Sure, we all want to do all that, you know, but I mean, it's all about work and putting, and putting food on the table. So, you know,
That's the bottom line.
we don't get to pick and choose all the time until we cross over, so, you know, as they say.
Let me ask you this, and I don't know if you covered this in your documentary. Not as an actor, as an individual, a young Italian, let's just say an Italian boy between 8 and 12 and 13 and hearing about Wiseguys, what would make one want to be and how they would look at a wise guy?
That's a very good question, and it prompts an answer that I have, or I bring up subject-wise with that. Back when I was younger, and maybe in that age range or a little bit old, like The Godfather came out.
Right.
So there was the mob was much more glamorized, and there was much more, you know, loyalty, and it was just a different world. I mean, they were all dressed. You know, The Godfather was on last night. I couldn't help but watch some, you know, more of it. Beautiful suits, you know, the hats, everything would be respectful to each other. The cars, the whole world. Their meetings were, you know, it's a beautiful mansion in Westchester. Now, you know, the current mobs. Now, although The Sopranos, I think, is a masterpiece, you know, the series that David Chase created. I think it's different now. The reality, I think, it's how some Italian Americans think that. It's bad that The Sopranos on the air, but you see the thing about The Sopranos being on the air and showing that there isn't the same kind of so they live in a big house in New Jersey, big deal. A lot of people do.
McMansions.
You know,
they're all over the place.
The loyalty's not there anymore. There's a lot of backstabbing going on. They're having their meetings in the back rooms of butcher shops. You know, he has to go see a psychiatrist because he's got psychological issues. His marriage isn't good. The kids are screwed up. So I don't think it's as attractive now for a kid watching The Sopranos to say, I want to be a wise guy, as it was for me when I was watching The Godfather and seeing that version of the mafia. So I feel like that the mob movies of the last 10 years have been sort of like the westerns of old.
I got to interrupt you, though, but is that the movies or is that real life? In other words, Sopranos versus Godfather.
Right.
Is that really what's going on? I mean...
well, I think there's a lot of accuracy that, I mean, from both. I mean, is that what's going on in the real world? You mean?
That's what, yeah.
Well, I mean, you know... I
I
don't want to get shot when
No. All right, let me rephrase it. Sopranos, you gave an example of Sopranos and the differences nowadays. Nowadays, the show, the actors, the characters. But in real life, do you think or have an opinion of that's really what's going on today, that style
I don't know.
wise guy?
No, I think it's the New Jersey mob, which is portrayed on Sopranos, was accurate to what was going on during that time. I mean, things have changed now. I mean, you pretty much, you know, so many guys have, you know, either are, you know, dead, have been killed or are away. You know, and then and the mob, as it was known to be at one time, is nothing like it once was.
No.
You know,
the mob is dead. I think.
Yeah, and you're not going to get shot. It wasn't his opinion. I mean, he
just
might
hear
say,
that.
"I hear things.
true or
I
not."
heard things," but
No, I mean, you see mob wives, you hear these stories, but it's like, it's not what it used to be.
well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's hideous, and I think that show is ridiculous. I mean, it all started with Growing Up Gotti. Like that show would have, if John Gotti was alive, that show would have never ever got on the air. I mean, Victoria Gotti did that show with her kids and all that stuff. It just never would have happened back then. And then everything just started getting exploited. And this whole mob wives thing is just it's a train wreck.
It is.
You know.
People watch it though. That's what's a sad thing.
And the sad thing is that it's all, you know, considered like Italian American, and it's really not all Italian American. You know, and it's the extreme. Every culture has their, you know.
Yeah. Well, look at Jersey Shore. Not that it has anything to do with mobsters, but look what they do with the Italian, you know, and half the people on that show aren't even that.
That's very true. That's very true. I mean, I grew up going to the Jersey Shore on weekends, you know.
Yeah.
And
love the Jersey Shore.
me too.
We had a lot of fun at Seaside Heights every weekend. And we did probably had a lot more fun than they did, but we didn't, you know, I mean, the kind of things that they do are just different. And like you said, they're not, they all try to be Guidos and come across as these Guidos.
I was a real Guidette.
A real Guidette.
Oh, yeah. 1985, 86, 87. Yep. I went to Act 3 in the tropics at the Bronx. I had the big, you know, bang, poofy, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, it was horrible. But the best, I couldn't say. I say the 80s was the best. Well, 70s, but being a teenager in the 80s was incredible.
Well, I just wish I grew up in the 50s. That's all I have to say. Even though I didn't.
Golden years.
I wish I did. I see these, you know, some of the movies and some of the things you hear about the 50s and
Yep.
you know, the early 60s and all that, like
Yeah, was that James Dean?
time of
era?
innocence, you know, and things are more appreciated, you know. We look at today, everything's like, every little kid's walking around with electronics.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's like, back then you just, you know, there was just, children went out and they just had fun just hanging out and, you know, on the curb or going to the playground or
true.
making up their own games or, you
Yeah, I was a stoop kid. I hung out at the stoop, played hopscotch.
Stoop. A lot of people don't even know what a stoop is.
Nope.
What's
The
a
steps
stoop?
on the front porch.
Yep.
It was,
Oh.
I think it was more of a Bronx term, but
Yeah.
you know, it was sort of the
Brooklyn.
boroughs.
I grew up in Flatbush. Brooklyn.
Stoop, yeah.
Stoop, yep.
Stoop
That's where we
ball?
hung out, you know.
Hang out on the stoop.
Yeah, hang out on the stoop.
Watch, people watch,
Hey mom, I'll be out on the stoop.
be out on the stoop. So,
I was born in the Bronx and moved to Rockland County, and then lived in Manhattan for many years, and now I'm back in Rockland County.
back in Rockland. Rockland's really nice, too.
And do we have, it's my AD, do
Yeah.
we have a clip?
Yeah, we have a clip. It's
have a
really-
clip.
It's my idea.
Hey, we have a clip. Do you have a clip? Okay, and here we go.
All right, one more time. Well, we need at least 2 more takes.
What are you having?
I'm going to have like a little penne or and maybe a little glass of wine or something.
Wine? I thought you don't drink.
A little glass, maybe soda. Now, how about you?
I'm on a diet. I think I'm gonna have fish.
You're on a diet.
Yeah. See what he's got today. Maybe
So
a
am I.
red
I'm on a
snap.
diet too.
When I got done playing Yogi Berra and I went on like a little press junket for HBO, I was out in Rochester, New York, and they had a big screening, and I would introduce the film, like for the audience. You know, they sent me around doing some of this stuff. So I couldn't believe it. We got done, and after we got done doing the screening, there was like the local press, the local cable guys, and he says, "Oh, could we get you to do like a little plug, like stay tuned to like KLXR or whatever their cable thing was." I go, "Yeah, sure." And they go, "But could you do us a favor? Could, you're an actor, and we've seen you in some other things. Could you do it like in an Italian accent?" So I was like, an Italian accent, but I don't have an Italian accent. Because with an Italian
Bothers you
accent.
a little.
I said, do you mean you want me to talk like this? So why would I talk like that? I'm not Italian. I'm over here. She goes, no, I mean, like, and she's going like, you mean like a moron? You mean you want me to talk like this? You want me to talk? I said, you gotta be fucking crazy if you think I'm gonna talk like that.
Meanwhile, 10 years later, my niece, the daughter of my sister, is getting married. My biological clock is ticking like this.
After my cousin Vinny, I did shy away from doing that kind of character again. People kept saying like this gum smacking, fast talking, and it was like I never chewed gum once in that movie. There was an implication like she was dumb, even though she was really an intelligent character.
It started out with the foolish monkey toting organ grinder and people imitating Italian accents very badly. Stereotypes were bothersome, but now what you really see, when you see Italians in film, you're generally watching gangsters.
There's Tony Pastor.
Woo!
That was awesome.
Good stuff.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a 60-minute documentary.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was a few minutes of it. And William DeMeo, who I work with a lot, and I guess we're going to be bringing on soon.
Yes, soon, definitely.
You saw he was there in the beginning with me in the beginning scene where we had that little round table discussion at Brunelli's.
Right, that's
Just
awesome.
to sort of start off the documentary with the subject matter that it was just chatted about. Then we went into the real heavier stuff.
All right. So, Paul, what are you doing now?
I'm sitting in a chair next to you being interviewed. And, I'm right now directing a movie called Back in the Day.
All right.
And William DeMeo is a good friend of mine. We also worked together on quite a few other projects, including Searching for Bobby D, and our last movie, Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn, and a number of others. And William wrote this movie and is producing it, and I'm directing it. William's playing the lead in it. And it's called Back in the Day. We have a really good cast so far. We've shot half the movie, and we're on hiatus. We're going back in to shoot the other half. We have Michael Madsen in it, and Danny Glover, and Shannon Doherty.
Wow,
I'm
that's
working on
awesome.
getting John Leguizamo, hopefully, in the movie,
I love
and
him.
Gina
I love
Gershon's
the way
in the
he
movie.
talks.
Let me ask you this. Actor, director, producer.
I always see him on Law and Order as a cop. I always see
Of
you
the
on
three,
What do I like
and I know
best?
they're different, and I know the difference. You have a preference? Where did you start?
Well, I've always been asked that. I'm always asked that question, and it was only within the last year that I came to realize what I do like the most. The writing, I've sort of been forced into the writing. The writing just sort of like, you get involved in projects and there's a script that already exists and you find yourself having to either rewrite or, start over again or things like that. So that was sort of that. But so I've written a number or co-written a number of scripts that have been produced. As far as the directing and acting, I didn't know for a while. I liked them both. I think I like directing more because, with the acting, sometimes it's nice to just study, memorize your lines, go in, do your job, and leave. But with there's a lot of hurry up and wait with acting, and with directing, I like it that like from every second, the second I walk in, walk on set, to the second I leave,
You're
I'm
in
involved
it.
on every aspect of it, and so to me that's exciting and invigorating, and my adrenaline just keeps pumping and my energy stays. Where with the acting, sometimes you're waiting around for 6 hours to get up there and do a little something, and it's like, wait a minute, we have to reset, we have to relight, and then, you're waiting another hour and you come back again. But I do love acting, so if any casting directors or agents or producers that are out there watching, don't think I don't want to be cast in anything anymore. But I love working with William because we collaborate really well together.
Why don't we bring William out?
Are we ready for William?
I'm ready for William.
Are you ready for William?
Ready for William?
We're ready for William. William DeMeo.
William
Come
DeMeo.
on now.
Pleasure. I got it, kiss. Mwah.
Funny you should. How you doing, buddy?
You want to get your mic on? Yeah, these little.
Get your mic on.
Get your mic on.
I have to agree with that. When he's talking about, when I asked him about difference acting and directing, another director, at least, I agree. I don't like the waiting around as an actor. I mean, you guys can just get in and plow right through when you're focused and as an actor, I mean, for me, you got to readjust. So.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I mean, sometimes it's you have all that waiting around and you come out and do so little, and other times there's too much expected of you too.
Yes.
As an actor, sometimes just because it's on paper, everybody thinks, well, if you're on the schedule, you're going to be able to get it done and you'll know your stuff. But if you have scene after scene after scene that you're in, like a lot of the movies when we work on together, when William's playing the lead in them, if he's in too many scenes in a row, it's like he really has no time in between to prepare for the next one, because we're ready to roll and we want to go into the next scene. So sometimes you really have to schedule it to give the actors time to, readjust, like you were saying, before moving into a different scene, or you're just shooting.
Yeah, definitely.
I just have to. I know this sounds weird, and we're going to get right to William, but I brought you in a little early, but I have to call lunch.
Oh my goodness.
Are we rolling for this?
Of course.
You sure you're not changing a dentist appointment or something? They called you in early because I kept everything I talked about involves you.
I have a sponsor.
Did you run out of cosmetics?
Oh, I get it. So she's going to call a specific place, and the name of the
Who are you calling?
I'm calling I've heard it. I'm calling Angela Lavoletta's. It's an Italian restaurant in Peekskill.
Oh, Lavoletta's, the Italian restaurant Peekskill.
Yeah.
Sure, I know
Angelo,
it really
come
well.
stai?
You
Okay, facciamo.
gonna put him on speaker?
I know, I hear the guy.
Oh wait, I gotta put you on speaker, Angelo.
ADD. ADD. Here we go.
Ok. Vogliamo 2 chicken parmesans, però uno senza salsa.
2 chicken parmigiani here.
Yeah, but right. And then I got eggplant parmesan, but senza pan. No bread on a plate.
No bread.
In a dish, yeah. One Caesar salad. I already told you that, though, right?
Make 3 Caesar salad on me.
No 3 Caesar salad. 3 grilled chicken salads.
Yeah, good chicken salad.
And
chicken ball.
Aspetta, ma già scordato. A side salad and a shrimp parmesan wedge.
And you finally ordered it. After she twisted your arm.
This for real? Yeah. Is she rolling?
Yeah.
You want a Caesar salad also?
Yeah, Caesar salad. Senza chicken. Senza chicken.
Correct. So you want 3 grilled chicken regular salad, 1 Caesar salad with no chicken, 1 side salad, shrimp parmesan hero, 2 chicken parmesan hero, 1 no sauce, and 1 eggplant parmesan dish.
And a seltzer.
And a seltzer. Dan, do you have seltzer water?
You got any corned beef?
Oh, wait, and one more chicken parmesan. Major Scudad.
It's an Irish
I
guy.
got salsa water.
Okay, yeah, one salsa water. Oh, we don't have. Wait,
I got bottled
what kind of soda? Do you want bottled water or do you want soda?
I'll have a Diet Coke
Now,
already.
back to the program.
Can I get a Diet Coke? One of the single ones.
I don't know what it is. Are we being pranked? Is this a prank show?
Yeah, a small one.
Where's the other camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
Those props?
3 chicken parmesans and one with no sauce.
This is a first. I've never seen this before.
Chicken water,
I've never seen
water,
anybody put a lunch
With
order
no
on
sauce.
the air.
Okay.
It's a good idea to tie in the sponsorship. And
All right. Oh, wait, did you get the eggplant parmesan with no cheese and sauce on the side? That's Joe.
it's not Parmesan then if there's no
Major
cheese.
Scudad, the next, yeah, and
So you want a 1 eggplant parmesan in the dish, no bread. The 1 eggplant
parmesan with no
sauce
cheese.
parmesan.
no cheese and sauce on the
What
side.
kind of
Eggplant
joint is
parmesan, yeah.
And the sauce on the
good?
side.
I know. I'm going to tell Joe we're going to have to put his order in way earlier.
Thank you, Anthony.
Okay. What? Wait,
That's
just.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what he's got. He's got it.
Angelo.
All right, we good?
We're good.
All right.
All right.
As soon as you can,
There's a
Angelo.
TV show. They show you up in pizza.
All right,
It's called
grazie.
ADTV.
Make sure you
Okay.
deliver it in the studio
That's
while
how
we're
we-
rolling.
Okay. Can you
Are you
come in the
hungry?
studio? This time, can you come into the studio?
What do you think? Is this?
I'll tell them to do that.
Okay. All right, Angelo. See you in a little while.
All right.
Okay, ciao.
Thank
Is
you.
this coming from Brooklyn?
So look, enough about me.
Let's talk about William DeMeo.
What do you think about me?
What do I think about you?
Okay.
I love you. You know that, buddy.
Yes, I saw your trailer. It was very impressive. You
Thank
play a heck of a boxer, huh?
Yes, thank you. And that's based on half the movie. So when we have an actual full trailer from the whole movie, I think it'll be more
And this is
impressive.
back in the day.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. So,
I heard you speaking about you like the 80s. That's your era. And that's what back in the day it's about someone growing up in the 80s in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, a very racial, tough neighborhood. And he's half Puerto Rican.
Angelo, you still there?
Okay.
Sorry. You're still there.
What's going on here?
You're supposed to hang up.
I'm sorry, William. That was really
Again, getting back to that, you said you like the 80s.
80s,
And
yeah.
this character grows up in the 80s. As a kid, he grows up in a very racial, tough Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. I also heard you guys talking about the mob.
Yeah.
The mob was very, very, Brooklyn is where the mob was so powerful,
Right.
especially in the 80s. And my character is half Puerto Rican, growing up in this racial neighborhood.
Right.
And he deals with a lot of racial tension. And as he gets older, he tells this whole story about how he went through so much to become this great boxer. And it's like nonstop. Like Paul said, we have a really, really good cast.
You have an excellent cast. That's great. And Sharon Doherty plays your girlfriend in it.
Shannon Doherty
Sharon Doherty,
plays a
sorry.
girl that from when I was a kid that I always really liked, but she winds up liking the wise guy's son as kids because, he has, Cadillac and, small-minded, growing up there. And later on, we always had a thing for each other. So later on, there's a lot of tension that happens between myself, her, and her boyfriend, which is played by a really good actor named Ronnie Marmo.
Ronnie Marmo.
I got to ask you, as you brought up boxing, what did you have to go through for training, or still have
Yeah,
to do
'cause
through
you were
training?
ripped in that.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
no, thank you. Well, I've been trained by, we brought a very good boxing consultant to the movie. His name is Joe DeGuardia. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's an ex-boxer. He owns a company called Star Boxing. It's a very big promoter, promotes all these events. He hooked me up with a trainer, hooked me up with all these different people in the boxing world, set us up with everything that we need. We have Roy Jones Jr. in the movie, Larry Merchant, who's big in the boxing world. Larry Merchant interviews me through the movie, and we're working on Mike Tyson right now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Which I think that'll happen.
So you're on a strict diet.
Kind of, yeah. Well, today,
Constant I mean,
I've already had about 15 pieces of grilled chicken already today.
Well, tell us what you got to go through.
You just
Well,
did.
it's,
You
well,
got a
it-
trainer.
well, the diet really is the big part of it. I mean, training with the boxing was very intense every morning, pretty much hitting mitts, bag, learning all the moves, the hooks, everything, getting it all down. But to get yourself really ripped, a lot of it also has to do with diet. I train very hard, but the diet really cuts you up more.
Right.
So,
And how
it's
hard
tough.
to do is it?
That's the hardest thing to do. But you know what? After a few weeks, like in the beginning, like you're dying. Like at night, you're like freaking out, like for stuff like carbs, because you gotta really cut your carbs.
Right.
At night, you're like, I was like flying off the wall in the beginning because I'm so used to, having some bread or pasta. All of it's gone. But after about a week, and then you start to see results, you start to feel less sluggish. You have a little more energy.
Right.
You almost don't miss it.
Right, it's worth it.
Yeah.
And can you cheat?
Yeah, I cheat here and there. I thank God now I'm like pretty conditioned where I kind of have it pretty good now. So now I can cheat here and there.
I wouldn't mess with you.
Yeah, so we still have about another 6 weeks till we start filming again and more boxing. And then in the next 2-3 weeks I'll start really going back hard on the diet.
Right, that's awesome. Well, whatever you're doing in that trailer, you're really fit, so it definitely works.
Thank you.
How long you been an actor, William?
For a while. I mean, it goes back from Bronx Tale was my first movie when I was younger.
I love that
first
movie.
Started. Yeah.
And what was your character in Bronx Tale?
Well, I only have like a couple lines in the beginning. I try to pick up some girls in the convertible. I don't know if you remember the scene when the girls pull up in the convertible. There's 3 guys on the corner. We try and get them to hang out with us. And I was just supposed to be a stickball kid, just an extra, and I winded up getting upgraded.
That's
and
awesome.
I just fell in love with the business.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then after a while, Paul and I met through the business, and this is our 3rd movie we're doing together now. We've done a lot of stuff together.
This is your 3rd movie?
Yeah.
What were the other 2?
We did a movie called Searching for Bobby D, and we did a movie called Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn, which just came out last May.
Wow.
Before that, William had made a movie called Wannabes, which he wrote, produced, and played the lead in.
Wow.
And also One Deadly Road before that. He had another film before that. So really, this is now going on. This is 5 features now that you've made on your own independently, which is a huge compliment. And I'm fortunate enough to be working with him as his director, and we've been collaborating on the writing on the last 2 features. On this one, William wrote this one. I mean, we work together on the script as most directors and producers and writers do. But this one was his baby, and I'm just trying to bring out his vision, which is a good one. And so far, so good. We've shot about half the movie, and now we were on hiatus, and we're coming back in again because there's flashback scenes when his character. When they're in their age range, when they're adults, we have to flash back to when they're children. Wow. So we had to break and cast the children. We couldn't cast the children too young.
I love when movies use flashback to kids and stuff like that. It just gives it just gives a little something like
No, I like that. Yeah.
You see the movie with De Niro and C, and there's something. It just really brings something to it,
even like Sleepers, right?
Sleepers! Oh my God, do you know that was insane?
So great when he goes back to the kids.
I love that. It gives a certain element and some depth to it because you're taking it from you're going from one extreme into the present. It's like the backstory, so it makes it even more intense. That's awesome.
And what made you an actor, inspired you? I mean, is it something, you're watching TV and say, you know what?
Well, you said you were an extra on The Bronx Tale, but...
Yeah, well, what happened, to be honest, you want to know the real truth?
Yeah, we
want the truth! And nothing but
Well, here I am. First off, when I first got to the set, I didn't know anyone, never studied, didn't have a picture, nothing. My uncle knew someone who knew Robert De Niro. I got a meeting with him.
I love it.
Supposed to be an extra. He lined up like 20 stickball kids against the wall. They picked out 3 kids to be in a scene. Next thing you know, I'm in a hair and makeup trailer, getting my makeup done, having all this around me. I was like a kid in a candy store. I'm on a set seeing like cars from the 60s, props. I was amazed. And I had a few lines. I know what I was doing, just screaming out to these girls. I had zero training, nothing.
Nothing.
Screaming at these girls. And after we finished, there was a whole bunch of girls behind like this police barricade watching me and these 2 other actors do this scene with these girls. And there was probably 15 girls behind this barricade.
You had a little,
they were watching this scene kind of, right? So they take me back, they're walking, I'm passing all these girls and they're all screaming and yelling. I'm like 16 years old and I have all these girls yelling and screaming at me, thinking I'm some big movies. Exactly. I'm like, damn, this works.
Yeah, I can get used to this.
Yeah. So that's how
you got bit.
I kind of got the bug and just being there, and I love it. I mean, it's been, as we all know, it's a tough industry.
Well, that's what we got to tell our viewers, because everybody thinks that even before I got into the industry, it's so glamorous. I think it's like the hardest working.
It's crazy.
It's the hours that go in it and the dedication, and there's no glamour. The glamour comes after all the work, you know, going, you know, when it's out in the theaters or film festival or on TV or whatever. But during the shooting, it's fun and everything, but it's not.
Well, you know what it is, until you really, really hit, like really hit, and people think that you know, even when you're working and you work with some big actors, you've done some big movies and stuff like that. I mean, it's still hard until you actually really get there.
Right.
And me as a writer and actor, producer, making my own films, the stuff I deal with, raising the money and going through and dealing with a bunch of people who promise me so much stuff and they don't deliver. And every day, like things changing sometimes.
We were just talking about that, William.
It's very discouraging.
It is.
The thing is that you just have to keep going. So you have a bad day, and then you just the next day you go and you pound the pavement and you make it happen. You just have to keep going. It's the drive to keep getting up and doing it again. Knowing that.
So true.
You know, you can't let it get to you.
Right.
And a lot of people out there that aren't in the business have no idea. They've been deceived. Oh, you're an actor? You got a lot of money. You could buy this, that. Are you kidding me? I'm broke.
It's tough. And another thing is that, you know, Paul and I get this all the time. So, you know, we have friends and people that say, you know, we want to be at, they look at us and they ask to get a shot to be in a movie, you know, please get me in, blah, blah, blah. And then when they get there and they actually have to read the lines and the camera's there and they're in front, like, it's a whole different ball game. So people all think that this is so easy, and it really isn't.
It never
you know.
gets easy, too, because, like, I this morning went on an audition. It's like you're always, you're out and you're competing with thousands of other actors for this one job. There's not like a million jobs out there that, you know, they're just handing them out. It's like you have to go out and you have to.
You know what makes me more crazy more than anything is like when me and Paul say this too. You go and you read like 2 or 3 lines, 2 or 3 little, like that anyone almost that like we're all kind of getting it the same way.
Right.
Like can I get it? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's what more do you want me to do? You know what I'm saying? It's like we you know, everyone's kind of doing it the same. There's not much difference. It's kind of like the luck of the draw. It's just craziness. And sometimes you suck on an audition and you get hired. It's
so
like sometimes
true.
you doors off, you come and you kill it, and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It's
true.
Or, oh, I nailed that one.
Not-
No phone call, no email, not.
Well, you guys ever? Well, you guys have been on the audition side of it where you had to see actors, right? Were you part of the process of choosing?
It's funny what you just said, because I've had friends who are actors, and in me casting my film Home, like you know, you guys weren't here before, but it's about a lot of scenes take place in a group home, and there's scenes where there's 10 actors sitting around. So it wasn't just casting the individuals as they were scripted, it was casting the group. Like, for example, I have a friend who I've worked with before, this woman Elena Hurst, who's terrific, who was going to be in the group. Like, she was early on, she did 2 readings, she was going to be in it, and she's Latina and pretty. So when I put out the casting call for other people in the group, I had dozens of these like pretty Latina actresses, and they could have been like, they weren't going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, she had that spot. Like, I wanted to make it diverse. I wanted to make it real. I wanted to make, and it was very interesting. Or I had, you know, Bengo played this dad of this kid. I had to find his wife, but I also had to find the kid. So I was kind of casting the family to look like these 2 people could have a biological kid. So these actors could have come in and they'd be like, I killed it, but it kind of wasn't going to happen. You know, and I'm sure you see that also. You're casting scenes and who they're working against, and they may have been perfect sitting there in front of, you know, in the audition. And you keep them in mind for the next thing, but it just wasn't going to work for that. So and I've told this to actors, and they're like, I get it. You know,
I think part of what William was saying with that too is that like everybody thinks it's so easy. Yeah. Like everybody else will be like, oh, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, and then we get him out to say. Even sometimes he'll tell me, he'll have somebody that's like, let's say, investor type. He might say, come on, Paul, it's only a couple of lines. You could get it out of him. You could get it out of him. I know. And I'm like, well, come on. You know, there's so many people in the city. We give their right arm just for this one. You could get it out of him. You could get it. Come on, it's 2 lines. And then they come out, and it's not all the time, but sometimes people just choke, and they'll tell you, oh my God, this is so much harder than I thought it was. It looks so easy. I only said this and that, and it, you know, they just totally like, they can't even be themselves. They can't act as themselves and to try to be something different, and they don't realize it's a lot of pressure.
Or they're great and they had a bad day.
It's a lot of pressure.
I mean, you could be.
No, but they weren't actors. I'm talking about non-actors.
Well, no, I
come out
agree.
The process to them is much different than they ever expect. They get out
Right.
there and there's all the cameras and the lights and people watching and listening, and it's you know, it's
You
very
said it
trying.
best. You tell somebody, be yourself. All of a sudden, it's like,
What's
who
that?
am I?
Who am I?
When you see guys do it well, I mean, you were talking before, like when you're on set, how hard it is. You'd be there for hours maybe, and then they come out, and then you do an angle, and you do it, and then you break it up. That's such a skill when you guys do it great. I mean, it's just like you realize, because I'm, you know, my day job is an assistant director. I've worked for many years. I see all the time people come out, and they either have it or they don't. It's not just like, I got a good look, let me be an actor. I mean, you know, you're fortunate, obviously, they liked how you looked, but then you were able to,
You're
to
100%
deliver.
right.
Yeah.
I run into so many guys in auditions because the hard thing for us sometimes is because we're producers and I'm a director and a producer and he's a producer and we're both writers and we'll be working on our side of things, so we'll hold casting sessions and see all these different people, and then like a few days later we might go to a casting session as actors and be in the same room with people that came in to read for us. That always feels, you know, kind of strange, you know, because you're like, oh, you know, but it's true. Either you got it or you don't. I mean, you can tell the difference when somebody's completely comfortable in their place and somebody who's just trying to get the lines right. And it's not just about getting your lines right. You can't do anything with the role and you can't bring anything to it or try or experiment unless you're already comfortable with it and it's just coming out. If you're just in your head just trying to get your lines right, you're really not acting. You're just, you know,
It's true.
saying the lines.
Like De Niro said, he said on an interview I was listening to, it's all you're doing is bringing yourself to the character. You get the backstory, but you're bringing your own personality and making it happen for this character. Because when you're trying to think of how this character would act, then it's, you know, you're not really acting.
Yeah, you had already lost it because you're in your head.
Because you're in the head instead of just bringing it. I don't know. Did that make sense?
I'm gonna go against
For De Niro, it
what
does.
Bobby De Niro thinks, but I
Whatever he
think
says is right.
You're always going to be partially yourself because you're
Yeah.
doing it. But I think if you look at all the diverse different characters he's played, so that's not exactly who he was in each one of those characters. But he isn't. It's you who's performing. It's you who's speaking. It's your voice. But yes, your voice might have to sound different or have a different inflection or a different
Right,
accent
well, to a
or
degree,
be
but
tougher
still-
or milder or softer. So I guess everybody has a different formula. I guess that works for them. You know.
That's cool. So it's going to start up in 6 months?
No, we're going to start shooting again over the summer.
Over the summer?
Yes,
Okay,
like
so
around
when
like
do you
August.
plan to have it done?
I'd like to have a product ready by around like January, like a finished product by that point. We have the post-production process to begin in like September. We should have something ready to actual show to distribution by I think around Christmas time.
All right. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
exciting. So look for it.
Yeah, we've been editing, so everything we've shot so far, we've pretty much rough cut edited the scenes, and we have the temporary trailer. So when we go back in, we could start continuing to shoot, and then start piecing everything together. And
So do you want to tell our audience again what's those movies you worked in so that they can go and Google it and check it out?
Yeah, sure.
Just right to which camera's on?
Which?
Okay, right over there.
Our last movie is called Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn, which was released by Lionsgate, which you can get on DVD, video on demand. It's out all over the place now, Redbox, Best Buy, Target, get anywhere in the video stores. And a movie called Wannabes, which is on Netflix right now, a movie I did in 2001. I won Best Actor and Best Director at the New York Film Festival. And
All right.
Bobby D. I
Great.
guess.
well, we also made a movie together called Searching for Bobby D, which stars Carmen Electra and Sandra Bernhard, and a whole slew of other well-known actors. That's a comedy. That's a comedy we did
And you can
together.
get that out? It's out right now too?
It's if you Google almost any video title, you'll find it on Amazon or wherever else it might be listed, And then you might want to catch me playing Yogi Berra in the HBO movie 61.
Oh,
That's
that's
still out.
awesome.
That's still out there and still runs on HBO, especially during baseball season. And we've both done a lot of different movies, both in front of and behind the camera. So when you say Google, I guess if you just Google our names,
Okay.
all of this
That's
stuff
fair.
that we've done that we haven't talked about is going to pop up. That's the easiest way to say it. We both have websites: WilliamDeMeo.com, PaulBorghese.com.
All right.
What I wanted to
It's
do,
all there.
so they could check it all out.
All right.
'Cause I ain't gonna remember all that.
I don't even
Not with your
remember.
AD.
I'm not even gonna try it. And Jono, you
Yeah.
want to give it one more shout out to
Your website
Home.
for
HomeTheFilm.com.
HomeTheFilm.com.
check it out.
So I guess we're gonna wrap up this show. So I want to thank
All the guys here tonight:
Thank you,
Jono,
guys.
Oliver,
Paul
Paul
Borghese,
Borghese,
and
William DeMeo for
Thank
coming
you.
on our
Very-
show.
Yeah.
And we'd like to thank our audience and remind you that you're watching ADTV.
See you later.
See you next time.
And we're here at the documentary of Beyond Wiseguys. My friend Paul Borghese is actually the narrator and co-producer on it, so I'm excited to see what we're going to actually see. I heard there's going to be some great interviews, so stay tuned. Hey, we're back here. This is ADTV, and we just watched Beyond Wiseguys, which it was incredible. I enjoyed it so much, and I can't wait to ask Paul some questions. Eddie, you should have been here. I know you're working, but hey, we missed you here.
You know, it's sometimes it's hard to get. This is a kind of film where this is a pretty general audience, I feel like. People seem pretty enthusiastic about the film. But sometimes it's hard to get people to see film because they think, oh, this is a serious subject. This is not going to be a lot of fun. They think I want to stay home and watch Mork and Mindy or something like that. It's true. But I think once they see it, if the film, and I made a lot of effort to try to make it from thought-provoking, but also make it entertaining, and to have a lot of fun with it.
Hey, I'm here with Paul Borghese. He's incredible. You're going to see him in the studio, in People Vision Studio. I just want him to say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully one injured. I was injured just before the event tonight. You should see the other guy.
We did, actually, the director. But he's going to be in the studio, and then we'll take the questions there. And what an awesome documentary. And I have to say, it was fabulous.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you guys coming down, and I look forward to getting interviewed by you in the studio. But that was noise.
Thanks for having us. So we're going to say goodbye for now. Thank you, and we'll see you later at the studios.
ADTV.
And you're watching ADTV.
You see that? I got that in before she did.
Figures. Good night.
Good night.
ADTV, you're the best.
We'll see you again. Keep going. Okay, look, we all have
keep
ADD.
going.
We're gonna keep going, saying
We're gonna have
goodnight.
lunch now. You
Yeah,
wait
we're
for
gonna-
Enzo. What's his
I
name?
know. I wanted Angela to come in and bring the food,
Angelo.
but I don't know what happened.
You want to walk in with the pizza pie. You want him to walk
I
in
know.
and put the food
I
down.
want, he does. Normally,
did.
that's what
We
he
had
does.
him where he came
comes
right
in
in,
and
right
he
to the
brings,
table.
yeah, brings the food.
And he
in.
probably doesn't know the cameras are running.
Oh no, he does. He's a big ham. He loves it.